Okay, not sure if this is a video that will be needed, but recording it anyway. So if you've had to take your back trucks off your Onsra Blac Carve to direct drive, or I think the process would probably be pretty similar for the belt drive versions as well, because I mean the philosophy of where these phase wires for the motors go would be roughly the same. And by the way, I'm working from a reference picture that I have, and I've already done one side, so I'm just going to show you the side that I have left to do, only because, you know, it's pretty much the same. Just make sure that you do, because if you connect them the wrong way around, if you connect that one that way, if you connect them the wrong way around, you'll end up with forward being reverse and reverse being forward. No harm done, you just have to do it again, but it's a bit of a hassle. So generally what I do is, if I'm taking it apart, take a photo of the way round that it is when you took it apart, and then make sure that, you know, the left and right go together. Speaking of left and right as well, I don't know whether you guys can see it, but make sure that when you're plugging them in, because the battery enclosure is upside down, make sure you've crossed the wires over when you're feeding them through the little holes there at the back of the enclosure. Obviously, taking the enclosure off like this is going to compromise the waterproofability. Now, I try not to ride in the rain or near any water at all, but what I will be doing when I can get some time to go down to the hardware is buying a new rubber seal to put in there. I think it's Ramatonics, another really good YouTuber who does stuff for the Onsra stuff. He's actually showed a really good one of putting a seal in a Blac Carve 1, but the principle will be the same here. Basically just grabbing some gasket seal so that you can screw it through. You can see all the screw holes there in this little shot of the video. Basically screwing it down so that you've got a nice watertight seal between the deck and the enclosure. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do it right now because I'm actually troubleshooting this board. I won't go into the reasons for that. You can check my Reddit posts and stuff if you really want to, but yeah, or hit me up in the comments. But essentially what I'm going to be doing is just down here, so these ones here. Note, make sure that the battery is unplugged when we do this. This is the battery one here. Don't have to unplug your power button, but just unplug your power so that you're not working with a potentially live circuit. I mean, I know it's supposed to be off with the power thing, but if that bumps or something goes wrong, there's quite a lot of voltage in here in this battery pack, so you could cause yourself some harm. So first things first, whenever you're working with electronics, we disconnect the battery first. Unless there's some very few specific reasons, but for skateboards, disconnect your battery first before you start working on anything at all, okay? Yeah. These are my, that's the remaining phase wires. I don't know which one's which actually. Someone who's more of a skateboard builder than myself would know. But these, some things that I learned the hard way. One, you've got this little assembly. It comes with, you've got this little bit here, this little bit here. Now this bit screws onto this bit to make the cable tight and stop it from moving. And you also have this little bit here. So if you get them, they'll all come all screwed together. This is the only bit you need to take off. You don't need to thread anything through the other bit there or anything silly like that. It's already set in the right place. Basically, we're just gonna get this now. Important thing to note with this, because it might seem fiddly, I don't know whether you can see it, one side is shaved off. So it's a bit shorter. That's the side that goes down, because if you go that way, it's not gonna fit next to the hole there. This goes down. It's just all that done is just sanded one side off of this. So I guess if you had a generic one and it was not sanded off, you could just sand off one side. It's not particularly. This is just to hold the that clamping mechanism in from this side, and then the other thing is we screw in from the other side. So pretty straightforward. So I'm going to get to it now. Obviously thread this over there. You can I'll bore you with further chatting. phase power, and that's the sensors, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If you accidentally get this the wrong way around, because that clicks in really firmly, I recommend having something like one of these. This is from iFixit, not sponsored, just it's a good tool for it. That way you can pry in there and get that off. I'm going to do it because I don't want to put undue strain on it, but this is plastic, so it means that it won't mess with the metal contacts and stuff, but it's still pretty strong. These are designed for electronics, so you know, it's good to pry in there. So you don't want to put strain, because if you pull on this, you can rip the soldering out and stuff. So you just want to gently, there's a little, I don't know if it shows up in the camera, there's a little, on this side, you can sort of get in there and pry it up. You can sometimes pry it up from the edges here too. Okay, so that one's in. This one's into, done, all plugged in. Sort of sit fine. This gets hot, but apparently, well, that's how it was when I got it. You can see it's all glued down with goop. And one thing I'm doing different, when I took the photos, these cables were really a lot of cable in here, not much cable out there. And the reason I'm replacing this is because there was a problem with the motor wires at the motor end of things. Now, I don't know if this is going to make a difference, but I'm giving it more slack in this cable here now. I'm moving that way. And I hope that's not a bad thing to do, but I'm figuring like, to clamp this down tight. Still leave it loose enough though, I don't want it to be too hard, but just basically a bit more slack here in the hope that it doesn't yank at the motor end as badly as it did before. And hopefully it means that I won't have the issue with where the cable connects to the motor being too tight. We'll see. It could be unrelated to that, but I'm just trying to think ahead here. This is really hard to get on camera, but basically I'm just, it's great. You've got to have good thumb strength, pretty much, because I'm basically just screwing in the last bit that was on the cable there till it's nice and tight. And you can see the cable doesn't want to move forward and backwards if you get that in nice and tight. And there's actually a little rubber ring that you should be making sure stays inside the threaded, the part that's in here, not the part that's the ring on the cable. And that when that screws down, it squeezes down onto that rubber ring and creates a better seal, keeps it watertight. The last little trick I do, and look, this is just a me thing, this is some silicone tape. I'm using, that's the branding thing for it. No idea. Basically, it's just temperature resistant and insulated. So the idea here is, because I don't have any of this goop that the factory is using, the idea here is just to make sure that these cables, even though they've got insulated plugs, you can see there's little bits of bare wire there. And I basically just want to heat proof from the heat from the ESC and insulate them mostly from conductivity, just in case stray conductivity gets through. And this tape is kind of handy because it's not that sticky to your fingers, but if you stretch it and slap it on there, it forms a pretty good bond. It's pretty good temporary solution. And I put it around that, and I also put it around this one here, mostly because the way when I pulled these out of the, when you pull it out, you'll see if you take it apart, all of these connectors have tons of this black goop. I don't know whether you can see that there in the video, like all this black goop sticking things down. So mine's gonna rattle a little bit because these aren't stuck down, and I don't really want to go and get some of that black goop myself. It's not my thing. Yeah, I'm figuring if I can seal up these connectors, just because this tape will also help, because it's adherent, sticky-ish when it's stretched. So this should help them hold together too. That's an idea. And hopefully this will stop anything from shaking loose as well. At least so goes the theory. Dyna Grip, by the way, if it didn't come up on the video, it says Dyna Grip SOS silicone tape is what this stuff is. And the other reason I'm using it is because I'm troubleshooting the board. I didn't want to put a permanent solution in here and then have to take it apart again. Like this is, I can just peel the tape back off as it comes nice roll like that. It's really easy to deal with. So almost there. It's all the wires in place. It's pretty solid there. Nothing's going anywhere. Making sure it's all solid. Very last thing we do, connecting our battery. I'm going to wrap that up too. Give ourselves a decent length. Long enough. There we go. Once again, better DIYers than myself will probably be able to critique my form here. This was glued down here using goop, and ideally I would plaster these back down to where they were using the goop, but this will all fit flush inside there fairly nicely. Pretty proximal to where it was. This was, weirdly enough, this was just glued like that, like a big lump. It was kind of loose, it was weird. But these were all stuck to the actual enclosure down like that, and I'm assuming that just helps with things. And this is, I believe this is our antenna wire, so it sits board side, because this wood doesn't block the signal, so it sits on the wood side of it. Never had a signal issue with this board anyway, so it's always been reliable as. So I hope that's helped at least one person out there. Well, I actually hope that no one's had to do that, but hope it helps someone in the future.